The first time Dr. Nalko saw the human seize up on the examination table, he very nearly activated the emergency cryostasis. Hold still. Nalko barked, his 4 eyes wide with alarm. The human's leg had jerked upward at an unnatural angle, toes pointed like a striking blade, muscles bulging under the skin. "I'm trying," shouted the human, gripping the edge of the table with white knuckles. It's happening again." Nalko's fronts flared in panic. The human's name was Jareth Whitlow, a recent arrival on the O'Plery Medical Research Station orbiting the third moon of Vanx 9. Jareth had been assigned to assist in cross-species physiology studies, a field he had no formal training in, but as he'd pointed out with a shrug, "I've had a body my whole life. That counts, right?" It had been 3 days since his arrival. 3 days of peculiar dietary requests, excessive coffee consumption, and frequent visits to the gymnasium where he insisted on lifting metallic rods for protein synthesis. Nalko had found Jareth's behavior erratic but not dangerous until this moment. "What is this?" Nalko demanded, stepping back as Jareth's leg twitched again with alarming force. "Are you under neurological attack? Parasites? Toxin exposure? It's a cramp." Jareth gasped, sweat sliding down his temples. "My calf's locking up. Ow, 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 okay. I think it's letting go. Nope, still bad." Nalko stared rigid. "Explain." Jareth groaned and sat up slowly, massaging his leg with both hands. "It's like the muscle clenches up on its own. Hurts like hell. Usually happens after a workout or if I don't drink enough water. Or if I sleep weird. Or stand weird. Or exist, really. That is not acceptable," Nalko muttered. "Your muscle is self-compressing without command. That is a catastrophic malfunction. We must isolate the limb." "Whoa, hold on," Jareth shouted, throwing up his hands. "Nobody's isolating any limbs. It's just a cramp. Happens all the time." "All the time?" Jareth nodded, wincing as he flexed his toes. "Yeah, pretty common. You think that was bad? I had one in both legs once. During a wedding. I dropped the cake." Nalko blinked slowly. "You dropped ceremonial sustenance due to spontaneous muscular collapse?" "Yep," Jareth said. "Bride never forgave me." But her grandma thought it was hilarious. Nalko turned away, accessing the nearest console. "I must consult the human medical database." "Good luck," Jareth said, hopping off the table and limping slightly. "Even humans don't fully understand cramps. We just sort of deal with them." "That is not a medical strategy," Nalko snapped. "No, but it works." Nalko narrowed his eyes. "You are not dismissed." "I figured," Jareth muttered, rubbing his leg and sitting back down. "Want me to cramp up again so you can study it?" Nalko hesitated. "You can induce this event. Sometimes. If I flex hard enough or if I pretend I'm climbing stairs. That is deeply concerning." "Believe me," Jareth said. "It's worse when it happens in the middle of the night." Nalko ran several scans, monitoring the muscle fibers and neural impulses. Jareth sat quietly, only occasionally flinching. "Your autonomic system appears intact," Nalko said finally. "But the muscle tissue shows signs of electrolyte depletion." "Didn't drink enough today," Jareth admitted. "I meant to, but your lab water tastes like metal soup. It is mineralized. It's gross." Nalko folded his upper arms. "Your species lives on the edge of physiological chaos. We call it flexibility. We call it a liability." Jareth grinned. "Well, now you've seen a cramp. Want to write a paper about it?" Nalko did not respond. He was already compiling notes. He titled the file, "Human Neuromuscular Irregularities, Case Study 1. The following day, Nalko summoned Jareth again. This time, the human arrived with a large bottle of water, a protein bar, and a plan. "I've got an idea," Jareth said, settling onto the table. "You want data, I'll give you data. I'll do a full cardio cycle, dehydrate a bit, then we'll see if a cramp kicks in. You scan it all." Nalko hesitated. "You are proposing self-induced distress for the sake of documentation?" "Yup." "Why?" "Because I figure if I'm going to suffer random pain episodes, you might as well learn something from it." Nalko stared. That is admirable and fundamentally reckless. Jareth shrugged. Pretty much sums up the human condition. The cardio session took place in the station's gym module. Nalko observed from an upper platform while Jareth ran, jumped, and performed what he called burpees, all of which looked to Nalko like inefficient convulsions. After 40 minutes, Jareth staggered back to the mebe, panting. Okay, he said. Let's see if this worked. He lay down, extended both legs, and flexed his calves. Nothing happened. Come on, he muttered. Don't make a liar out of me. Nalko leaned in. Perhaps your physiology has adapted. No, I just need to try harder. Jareth tensed. His face contorted. Then it struck. His left leg shot straight up, the calf muscle seizing violently. Got it! He yelled through clenched teeth. Nalko activated a dozen scan arrays. Remarkable. The muscle is contracting at over 120% of its rest state. Neural pathways are firing erratically. Yet there is no pathogen, no trauma, no inflammation. Yup, Jareth hissed. That's the magic of cramps. Nalko watched, fascinated, as the muscle slowly released. Jareth collapsed back onto the table, drenched in sweat. Worth it? Nalko asked. Jareth coughed. You tell me. Nalko studied the data. This may explain certain historic accounts of human battlefield behavior. Sudden collapse, erratic movement, misinterpreted as injury or fear response. In fact, it may have been this. Cramps win wars, Jareth said, laughing weakly. Or at least ruin dance floors. Over the next 2 weeks, Nalko expanded his study. He interviewed the other humans on station. There were only 3 and compiled anecdotal evidence of cramps during critical moments, spacewalks, firefights, romantic encounters. The randomness of it disturbed him. Your species has no preventative mechanism? Stretching helps, Jareth offered. So does potassium. Bananas, mostly. Nalko stared at the fruit, suspicious. These contain anti-spasm properties? Sort of. Maybe. We think so. You do not know? Look, man, we figured out quantum propulsion before we figured out cramps. Nobody's proud of that, but here we are. Then came the incident with the ambassador. Ambassador Vurex of the Set Ari Dominion was a towering, crystalline being who shimmered faintly in artificial light. He had come to inspect the station's interspecies medical protocols. Jareth, despite Nalko's protests, had been assigned as a tour guide. This is a mistake, Nalko warned. He will not tolerate erratic behavior. I'll behave, Jareth promised. I'm not going to cramp up during a handshake or something. You said you cannot predict the events. It'll be fine. It was not fine. Midway through the tour, just as Jareth was explaining the use of anti-gravity medbeds, his right leg spasmed. He cried out and dropped to the floor, clutching his thigh. Ambassador Vurex recoiled. He is under attack. No cramp. Just a cramp. Jareth gasped. Vurex turned to Nalko. This human is infected. Quarantine him. Or eliminate. Ambassador, I assure you, Nalko said quickly, this is a known condition. Temporary. Non-contagious. Jareth groaned. Not lethal either. Unless embarrassment counts. Vurex loomed over him. Your species is unstable. Tell me about it, Jareth muttered. It took nearly an hour of explanation, medical demonstration, and muscle ultrasound to convince the ambassador that Jareth was not a threat. Even then, Vurex remained unconvinced. I do not trust a creature whose own limbs betray him, he declared before departing. Jareth limped back to the mebe. Well, that went great. Nalko sighed. You may have set back diplomatic relations by several cycles. Hey, at least now he knows. Better than him finding out during a treaty signing. You are an unpredictable variable. Welcome to humanity. Nalko returned to his notes with a heavy breath. He added a new section, sociopolitical ramifications of human muscular spasms. Jareth leaned over. I'm gonna be famous, huh? Nalko didn't look up. Infamous. And that was only the beginning. The first genuine silence on Oplari Medical Research Station in over 70 hours came not from malfunction or protocol, but from the collective effort of 32 alien scientists observing one human trying to touch his toes. Jareth stood barefoot on an anti-slip mat in the center of the comparative anatomy lab. Around him, encased in transparent containment domes, the station's xenobiologists clustered in near-total stillness. Some hovered on propulsion discs, others stood on insectoid legs or coiled appendages. Every eye, lens, or photosensitive gland was fixed on the human's hamstrings. He bent at the waist. A groan escaped him, not of pain, but of theatrical effort. His fingertips stopped a solid 5 inches above the floor. "See?" he gasped. "This is why I cramp." A small clicking sound came from Nalko's left, a startled chirp from Dr. Senv, the Vraxi muscle elasticity specialist. Her body, a series of cartilaginous loops, compressed involuntarily. "That is the limit of your posterior flexion?" she asked, her translator blinking in disbelief. "Pretty much," Jareth said. "Unless I warm up or someone threatens me with a fire alarm." Several of the observers exchanged glances. One of the Corin delegates whispered something to his colleague, who hissed back, their bioluminescent jaws pulsing green with what Nalko recognized as incredulity. Nalko stepped forward, his slate in hand. "You previously claimed this limitation was the result of sedentary habits," he said. "But now you are implying it is chronic." "It's both," Jareth said, standing upright and rolling his shoulders. "We're designed to move, but we sit a lot. Chairs ruined us." "Chairs and screens. You are voluntarily impairing your own mobility?" "Not on purpose. That's just modern life. We're busy." "You are devolving," Nalko said flatly. "Tell me about it." A deep chime rang through the lab, the station's signal for incoming interspecies delegation. Nalko's fronds tightened. "Wrap this up," he muttered. "The Ilyari health inspector arrives within the hour." Jareth raised an eyebrow. "You scheduled a full-body stretch audit before a diplomatic visit? You are the anomaly. You must be accounted for. Do I get a medal if I survive?" "No," Nalko said, turning away. "You get hydration supplements and a new stretching regimen." 42 minutes later, Jareth sat in a diagnostic pod, legs extended, while 2 Drenari observers used a handheld scanner to map his muscle responses in real time. Nalko stood at the console, filtering the data into a kinetic graph. Every time Jareth flinched, the graph spiked. "Do you feel that?" Nalko asked. "No," Jareth said. "But I'm about to." "That thing buzzes like a tickled drone." The Drenari technician clicked his mandibles and adjusted the frequency. A low hum vibrated through Jareth's calves. "Okay, now I feel it," he muttered. "Yup. That's weird. It's like a soda can full of bees." "You have a remarkable tolerance for discomfort," Nalko said. Jareth shrugged. "We sort of have to. Life's full of weird aches. You ignore most of them unless they scream." The scanner pinged. One of his calf muscles twitched again. "There," Nalko said. "That's the pre-spasm wave." The Drenari leaned in, fascinated. One began recording a slow-motion video of the muscle surface. "Can we talk about how creepy it is to watch my own leg do stuff I didn't ask for?" Jareth asked. "Feels like it's got its own little plan." Nalko tapped his notes. "This involuntary contraction occurs with no external stimulus. Your electrolytes are currently balanced. Hydration normal. Neural latency within acceptable range. And yet the muscle prepares for an isolated seizure." "Welcome to human meatbags," Jareth said. "Sometimes we just glitch. You are a biomechanical paradox. And proud of it." 3 hours after the inspection team left and 2 hours before the Ilyari arrived, Nalko summoned Jareth back to the mebe. The lighting had shifted cooler tones to accommodate the Ilyari's photosensitive corneas. Jareth shielded his eyes as he stepped inside. "Wow. Mood lighting. You guys expecting a spot, eh?" Nalko didn't look up. He was hunched over a holographic model of the human calf, rotating the muscle layers with slow, deliberate gestures. "I recalibrated the station's EMR field. This should reduce any ambient nerve interference." "Are you saying the station's messing with my legs?" "Not intentionally, but the field amplifies microcurrents. If your muscle fibers are already unstable." "They're not unstable," Jareth said. "They're just dramatic." Nalko made a sound that might have been agreement, if one squinted. Sit, he said. We are going to test a variable. Jareth climbed onto the platform. Let me guess, ice bath? No. Controlled fatigue? That sounds worse. I need to confirm whether the cramp event is more likely under exertion or rest. Couldn't we just use a treadmill? Treadmills are for cardiovascular strain. This is targeted. A robotic arm descended from the ceiling, ending in a padded clamp. It latched onto Jareth's foot and began flexing it at controlled intervals. This feels like a boot camp for toes, Jareth said. Good. For the next 20 minutes, the machine worked his leg through a range of motion while sensors tracked every micro-twitch. Jareth grew visibly tense, his breathing shallow. All right, he said finally. It's getting there. You'll probably see a twitch in a minute. The reading spiked. Nalko leaned forward. There. Onset begins. Initiating freeze protocol. Wait, Jareth's leg arched and locked. Too late. His foot jerked, the motion triggering a cascade up the muscle chain. The cramp hit harder than expected, his entire lower leg seized, toes curled, tendon rigid. Okay, stop the machine, he shouted. Nalko hit the override. The arm retracted. Jareth clutched his shin, grimacing. This one's a beast, he muttered. Nalko hesitated, then handed him a small capsule. Consume this. Jareth sniffed it. What is it? Concentrated magnesium with ginger extract and neural relaxants. Sounds like a smoothie for my soul. He swallowed it and lay back, breathing heavily. Better? Nalko asked after a few minutes. Yeah, Jareth said, eyes closed. That helped? Not gone, but manageable. I have a theory, Nalko said. Your muscle architecture lacks a proper feedback suppression loop. You rely entirely on conscious override to release contraction. Maybe, Jareth said. Or maybe we're just not built for standing upright all the time. Evolution's got jokes. You are upright bipeds. That is not negotiable. Yeah. And yet every part of us tries to rebel against it. Later that evening, the Ilyari arrived. Tall, translucent beings with long cranial ridges and no visible joints. They spoke in harmonic chords that required triple-layered translation. Nalko led them through the medbay while Jareth, now limping slightly, remained seated at a corner desk, pretending to review muscle scans. One of the Ilyari paused beside him, their luminescent eyes flickering. He is the one, the translator asked. Yes, Nalko said. The human with autonomous muscle dysfunction. The Ilyari tilted their head. He is. Conscious through the episode? Fully. That is. Not expected. Jareth looked up. Hi. Yes. I'm very aware during all of it. It's part of the charm. The Ilyari sang a short, curious note. You tolerate internal sabotage with humor? Jareth raised an eyebrow. Wouldn't you? No. We would excise the muscle. Right? Well, we're more attached to our bits. A pause. Your species is illogical. Thanks. We get that a lot. By the cycle's end, Jareth sat alone in the diagnostics wing, sipping a mineral drink Nalko had concocted from 6 different salt compounds. His legs still ached, but there was no tightness now, just the dull hum of a body that had been pushed to its edge and pulled back. Nalko entered quietly and stood beside him. You have endured 4 induced episodes without lasting damage. Yeah, Jareth said. That's about average for a bad week. I have compiled our findings into a new hypothesis, Nalko said. The cramp phenomenon is not a flaw. It is an overreaction of a system designed for survival under primitive conditions. When threat no longer exists, the mechanism misfires. So I'm basically a cave guy in space boots. Precisely. Jareth chuckled. Guess that explains a lot. Nalko looked at him for a long moment. You are not defective. You are misaligned with your environment. Story of our lives. The lights dimmed to night mode. Outside the viewport, Vanix 9's third moon cast a blue haze across the station's hull. Nalko tapped his slate one final time and closed the file. Sleep. I will design a better stretching protocol. Jareth leaned back in the chair. Just don't make me touch my toes again. I will not. That was disturbing. They sat in silence as the stars drifted by, both aware that the universe had just become slightly more confusing and somehow more interesting thanks to a single unruly muscle. Nalko stood in front of the station's hydroponic bay, arms folded behind him, watching the nutrient misters hiss over rows of leafy stalks. The plants, genetically modified from Earth stock, were being evaluated for stress resilience. Several had wilted under variable gravity conditions. Others had adapted in ways no one could explain, including a spinach variant that now emitted a low-frequency hum when touched. Behind him, Jareth approached with a slow shuffle, his right foot dragging slightly. The limp wasn't theatrical this time. "That new stretching protocol of yours," Jareth said, voice tight, "might be trying to kill me." "You performed it improperly," Nalko replied without turning. "The first stage is meant to be passive. You initiated active resistance against the tension bands. They snapped. 2 of them. One hit me in the face." Nalko finally turned. "You were not wearing the eye shield." "I didn't know it came with one. I placed it directly on top of the instructions. I thought it was a headband." The silence that followed was not tense, just tired. "I will design a simpler version," Nalko said eventually. "Perhaps one that cannot be misused unless you purposefully eat it. Don't tempt me." They walked together through the corridor leading back to the medbay. The lights shifted subtly from cool blue to ambient green, a signal that the lab was preparing for the midday diagnostics cycle. Nalko gestured for Jareth to sit on the primary table. "Pulse. Normal. Hydration. Better, thanks to your mineral sludge. Muscle sensitivity? Less twitchy," Jareth said. "Still sore from yesterday. But no spasms." Nalko nodded and tapped the console. A soft hum began as the diagnostic field enveloped Jareth's lower legs. "I recalibrated the scanner to detect minute pre-spasm electrical misfires," Nalko said. "If your muscles begin to misbehave, I will know before you do." "Great. You'll know it's coming and I'll still be the one screaming." Nalko activated a real-time overlay. The outlines of Jareth's muscle fibers glowed faintly above his legs, shifting in response to micro-movements. "You truly live with this uncertainty daily?" "Not every day, but enough. It's like waiting for a prank that only your own body knows the schedule for." Nalko studied the live readout. "Your body's tolerance for dysfunction is unnerving. You should see what happens when we get food poisoning." "I have. It is on record." "Disturbing." The scanner pinged softly. Jareth didn't move, but his right leg's overlay flared for a moment. "There," Nalko said. "A tremor in the gastrocnemius. No visible reaction yet." Jareth glanced down. "Feels fine. Maybe a little tight. I will apply a low-pressure heat wrap." A panel opened beside the table and a flexible device slid out, wrapping around his leg with gentle compression. The warmth spread slowly. "That's actually not bad," Jareth muttered. "Could have used this in high school." "You experienced these events as an adolescent?" "Yeah," Jareth said. "I was on a swim team. We used a cramp mid-lap. Once our captain locked up so hard he sank like a rock. Coach had to throw a float ring." "Your aquatic training lacked medical supervision?" "No, we just didn't think of cramps as medical. More like a rite of passage." Nalko straightened. "You normalized internal dysfunction as a cultural benchmark?" "I guess. We didn't have a name for it. It just meant you were pushing yourself. That is not a healthy metric." "No argument here." The scanner began to stabilize. The muscle overlay faded to a uniform blue. Nalko deactivated the field. "You are stable. For now." Jareth sat up slowly. "So, what's next? More stretching? Salt injections? Humming spinach therapy?" Nalko hesitated. "We must test your recovery response. I don't like where this is going. You will submerge your legs in the cryo bath for 5 minutes. I really don't like where this is going." Nalko led him to the adjacent chamber where a circular basin bubbled with pale vapor. Inside, an icy solution swirled with controlled turbulence. Jareth eyed it with deep suspicion. "This looks like something you'd use to store alien eggs. It is designed to reduce inflammation and interrupt nerve feedback loops. Right? And also freeze off my knees. You may keep your torso elevated." "Generous." He stepped in cautiously, hissing through his teeth as the cold enveloped him. Nalko monitored the vitals from a panel nearby. Temperature is within the tolerable range. Heart rate rising slightly. Yeah, that's called being human and hating cold water. Your core systems are overreacting. You say that like I have spare ones to use instead. Minutes passed. The color in Jareth's face drained, but he remained still. Around the two of them, the chamber hummed with quiet efficiency. The only sound was occasional teeth chattering. Time? He asked. 47 seconds remain. That's 47 seconds too many. Endurance is essential to your therapy. I'd rather cramp. When the cycle completed, Nalko activated the drainage sequence. The water receded with a mechanical hiss. Jareth climbed out, shivering. Congratulations, Nalko said. Your muscle tissue retained optimal tone. No spasms. Because they're frozen solid, Jareth muttered. Nalko handed him a thermal wrap. You may recover in the rest pod. As Jareth wrapped himself and trudged out, Nalko turned back to the console and began compiling the session data into a single report. No spikes, no misfires, no sudden contractions. The combination of mineral rebalancing, stretching, and controlled cold exposure had worked. 1 hour later, Jareth reappeared, fully clothed, hair damp, but walking without discomfort. Okay, he said. I'll admit it. That helped. Nalko didn't respond. He was analyzing a 3-dimensional model of Jareth's musculoskeletal system. After a moment, he turned. I have drafted a rehabilitative protocol. If followed, your likelihood of spontaneous muscular seizure drops by 72%. Only 72? There are variables I cannot control. Your sleeping posture, for example. Jareth pointed at him. Don't make me feel guilty about how I sleep. Too late. There was a pause. So that's it? Jareth asked. No more surprise cramping? If you adhere to the regimen. And hydrate. Jareth exhaled. You know, for a condition that's basically just muscle does what it wants, this turned into a whole saga. Your biology is full of contradictions. And your science turned my leg into a research paper. I will append the final chapter now. Jareth tilted his head. Final chapter? I have determined the condition is manageable. Not pathologic. Meaning? You are cleared for normal function. No quarantine. No restrictions. Just like that. You endured multiple induced episodes, maintained composure during inspection, and followed corrective steps. You are no longer considered a risk. Jareth looked around the medbay, then down at his legs. Ha, he said. Guess I'm officially safe to walk among civilized species. Nalko nodded. You may still be a mystery, he said, but you are no longer a threat. Hey, Jareth said, grinning. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in weeks. There was no ceremony, no dramatic music or celebratory dance. Just one human walking out of the medbay with both legs working, and one alien doctor updating his files with a new entry. Human neuromuscular events. Non-lethal, often inevitable, occasionally useful. The file was marked complete.